Lesson 2-6, ratios and proportions. The objective, I don't know why it's not written in there, but the objective would be able to solve proportions or see if ratios are equal and to solve proportions for a missing value. So the ratio is a comparison of two numbers. And you have seen ratios given all of these ways in the past. 1:2. And you read that literally 1:2, but also writing 1:2 is a ratio. 1/2, and believe it or not, 1/2, the most common ratio, we would call it a fraction. That's what we'll mostly use. Those are all ratios. Okay, so just be aware all of those things really mean the same thing. But we are dealing with mainly the last one, 1/2. All right, a proportion. A proportion is taking two ratios and setting them equal. So a proportion is an equation of ratios. And when you have an equation of ratios, there is this thing called the cross product rule. And the cross product rule says you can cross through a proportion and multiply through that cross. In other words, A times D is equal to B times C. The cross products are always equal in a true proportion. All right, so let's start off with going back a little bit and looking at ratios and determining if they are a true ratio. Okay, so we're trying to decide if these things are a ratio. You can use the cross product rule for that. So we're given two ratios, 7/8 and 49/56. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform the cross products by saying 7 times 56 and checking to see if it is equal to 8 times 49. And in this case, 392 is equal to 392, so you would say yes. You might also say, well, I have 7/8. If I take top and bottom both times 7, I get 49/56. That is also a way. But if you're told to do the cross product rule, you would have to do what I did. If there is no directions and just say, is it a proportion? Yes. You can just do it with the times 7. Either way, my answer is yes. Okay, now 8.4 over 9.2, it's my first ratio, and 8.8 over 9.6. So this one, I'm going to use the cross product rule, and I'm going to take 8.4 times 9.6 and check and see if it's equal to 9.2 and 8.8. Well, the one on the left is equal to 80.64, and the one on the right is equal to 80.96. So those two are definitely not equal. So the answer, are they a proportion? Definitely no. Questions about that? So you'll have a couple where you have to determine if they could form a proportion or not. Questions? All right, next. Next, we're actually given proportions and you are told to solve them. That's the nice part about this cross product rule. It helps you find missing values. So it's just like you did when you first started looking at ratios and proportions. You cross, and I'm going to go 8n equals 12 times 3. That's my first step, and I should show that. 8n equals 36. And now solve. Divide by 8. And I would say n equals 4.5. Okay, in algebra, I would expect to see more of ones like this cross product. This is a whole expression up here. So when I do cross product rule, it would be 4 times the quantity x plus 4. And that equals 12 times 3. I wouldn't be surprised if I had some expressions maybe on both sides or something. And that'd be fine. You could do that. So on the left, I need to distribute 4x plus 16, and that equals 36. And now we're solving a two-step equation. Subtract 16. 4x equals 20. I'm going to come over here with this because I ran out of space. Divide by 4, and x equals 5. Questions about that? All right, now, one last thing. They're giving us a word problem. You have to write the proportion first and then solve it. So here's my suggestions. Let's read it first. On a road atlas, the scale is 5 inches equals 41 miles. That's the scale they give you. What is the distance in miles represented by 2.5 inches? Use a proportion. You have to write a proportion and solve it. So I go by what they tell me right here. I have 5 inches equaling 41 miles. I always like to write that out to myself, that I am comparing inches to miles. That's what they're giving me to go by, inches to miles. So fraction bar equals sign fraction bar. That's how I'm going to get my proportion out of this. Go with what they gave you, 5 inches to 41 miles. Notice I didn't put the labels with that. It's just 5 to 41. I know out in front what I'm comparing, inches and miles. So what distance in miles is represented by 2.5 inches? So I've got the inches. I'm going to put 2.5 up here. The miles, I don't know, so I'm going to let that be m. So I've written my proportion, and now I'm going to solve. Cross, cross. So 5 times m equals 41 times 2.5. So 5m equals 102.5 when I multiply that out and divide both sides by 5. So m equals 20.5, and I would label it miles. 20.5 miles. Questions about that?